Hi, I'm Robert Tolpe, and today I'm talking about My Policeman, a romance film starring Harry Styles, David Dawson, and Emma Corrin. Critics have praised the movie for being a beautiful gay love story, but when I saw the movie, I couldn't help but notice that the story has homophobic undertones, which ended up making an otherwise mediocre movie terrible. Heads up that this video will have many spoilers in it. If you haven't seen it already, I'll briefly summarize the plot. The film is a period piece set in 1950s England about a closeted gay police officer named Tom and his affair with a museum director named Patrick. They fall in love before a woman named Marion comes into the picture. She marries Tom, but Tom continues to have an affair with Patrick. Upon discovering the affair, Marion reports Patrick to the police for being gay, and he is sent away to prison. And Marion continues her relationship with Tom, and they live miserably ever after. While the story is set in the 1950s, the first scenes take place in the present. We see the story through Marion's perspective as she reads Patrick's diary while taking care of him in his old age. After learning about the extent of her husband's relationship so many decades later, she finally cuts ties with Tom and tells him that she was the one who got Patrick imprisoned, and he reunites with Patrick, who is bedridden and on death's doorstep, and the film ends with them embracing. So what is the problem with My Policeman? It sounds interesting and the plot doesn't seem very problematic in itself, but it fails as a gay romance movie primarily because the central character is neither Tom nor Patrick, it's Marion, a straight woman. Now there's nothing wrong with a straight woman being a focal character in a movie, but there's many things wrong with Marion. We're introduced to her in the present day when she brings an aging Patrick into her home against Tom's wishes. She's shown as empathetic, caring for Patrick in his old age. She also seems to love her husband, looking towards him walking on the beach and remembering how they first met. Her apparent love for her husband and empathy for Patrick are hardly redeeming qualities, as Marion is extremely homophobic. Remember that she eventually goes into a rage after discovering her husband is involved with Patrick and reports Patrick to the police for being gay. She repeats narratives that homosexuality is unnatural, gay people are dangers to children, you get the idea. But her being a pretty terrible person, even for 1950 standards, isn't too surprising, and having a homophobic character in a movie also doesn't necessarily make a movie bad either. But remember, this film is marketed as a gay love story, and it couldn't be further from that. In focusing on a homophobic straight character, the film goes to great lengths to try and justify her actions and have us, the audience, bond with this awful woman. As a result, the gay characters exist only to teach Marion a lesson, with that lesson being gay people aren't twisted perverts, and she made a teensy tiny mistake in thinking that they were. Speaking of twisted perverts, Patrick embodies many problematic stereotypes about older gay men. He seeks out younger men to draw them in his apartment before having relations with them, and while there's nothing wrong with that, the dynamic between Tom, a ditzy twink policeman, and this very intelligent and experienced man decades older than him makes me uncomfortable. Tom's ditziness is only accentuated by Harry Styles' lackluster performance. Now, Tom is very much of age, and age gaps when both people are consenting adults don't really concern me, but consent is really a huge problem in this movie. It's worth noting that Patrick offered Tom a significant amount of alcohol before their first intimate encounter, which I have some thoughts about. Though pastel activist pages on Instagram will try to convince you that a single drop of alcohol renders any act non-consensual, that's really unnuanced. There are varying degrees of intoxication. Assuming you have a normal tolerance, you'd be more than able to provide valid consent after having just one drink. Additionally, these stupid Instagram pages always assume that one person is drunk, when often both people who engage are intoxicated, and when both people are intoxicated, it can be difficult to determine who initiated what. So, alcohol in the bedroom can at times be a moral gray area, assuming no one is passed out or had something funny put in their drink. In the case of Patrick and Tom, neither of them were passed out, and they were both tipsy, definitely, but were pretty with it when the act happened. What's more, Tom actually makes the first move on Patrick, and before Patrick makes a move on him, he waits for Tom to give a gesture of consent, which he does give. This is why I don't find this scene to be the most consensually problematic one, but in, I believe, more than one scene, Patrick makes a bold move on Tom, grabbing him or kissing him with little warning. Patrick then asks for verbal consent, and Tom says no, before Patrick continues to make advances. I'm sure the screenwriters didn't think twice about this because the situation was supposed to be one where Tom's words were no, but his body and mind were saying yes, and Patrick just magically knew this. But Harry Styles cannot convey any kind of subtle desires in his acting, so it looks like Patrick just proceeds with what he's doing without any indication of consent. Even if Tom did show he wanted to engage with Patrick, a verbal no should have shut the situation down entirely. For these reasons, these scenes were very uncomfortable to watch. In many respects, this makes Patrick appear to be the very kind of person Marion thinks he is. It almost makes it seem like he's getting what's coming to him when he is finally arrested. Though My Policeman clearly doesn't endorse the oppression of gay people, the idea that Tom and Patrick deserved what happened to them is one that is central to the film. The film puts a great deal of blame on Tom for lying to Marion and allegedly using her, and his resulting misery is shown to be his fault. In the scene at the end where Marion comes out to Tom as the person who reported Patrick to the police, he is confronted by her, and she says, "We were never happy in our marriage. I never had you, Patrick did. You lied to me." Obviously, I'm quoting from memory here, so it might not be 100%. Instead of Tom telling Marion that it was partially her own goddamn fault that she was unhappy and she could have divorced him ages ago after she found out that he was gay, he responds, "Yes, I lied, but you ruined him." When Marion does something wrong, she's always shown to be a victim somehow. When Patrick angrily tells Marion that she won when she got him in prison, she says, "No one won." In this way, the movie frames everything as a lose-lose situation where no one wins and everyone is unhappy, when in reality, Marion is simply an antagonist who uses her power as a straight woman to victimize gay people. She knew that Tom was gay, but remained in a miserable marriage for decades after 1969, when divorce became readily available to women in England. She had the upper hand and the ability to make a choice, but as for Tom and Patrick, you honestly think in the 1950s and 60s they had any other choice than to lie? Additionally, getting someone arrested over an affair is not proportional to any wrong that was done to Marion, but the movie frames it as a both sides situation. Both sides became unhappy. Both sides had things happen to them. But this is not a both sides situation. Marion comes out on top. So what the hell went wrong with this movie? The screenwriter and the director are gay men, so how on earth could they fumble this badly? Well, the movie was based on a book written by a straight woman. While I wish I could tell you about the book, I'm not going to read an extra detailed version of the train wreck I already watched. Because I didn't read the book, I can't tell you if it has the same pitfalls as the movie, but some of those Goodreads reviews make the same criticisms of the book that I made about the film. While I can't point fingers at anyone, the movie has all the hallmarks of gay romance conceived by and made for straight people. Some, however, have been more than willing to point fingers at people. Harry Styles has faced the brunt of the criticism of this film, but he's not the problem. Yeah, he's not a fantastic actor, but he's not exceptionally bad either. There are also the queer baiting allegations, and I have some thoughts on that. Harry Styles is one of those people who doesn't want to put a label on their sexuality, which, I mean, good on him. But while he has no label on his sexuality, he's free to benefit from the aesthetic of queerness while keeping his cis and straight assuming privilege. He's having his cake and eating it too, which is pretty unfair. Oddly, My Policeman captures some of this unfairness, by casting him as Tom, a policeman who is able to both engage with other gay men, but is able to hide behind his straight relationship and masculine profession, while other gay men like Patrick aren't so fortunate because they are visibly not straight. I don't think this movie had to be as bad as it was. An interesting direction it could have taken is making Tom bisexual. That way his attraction would be torn between two people, and it would have made the movie more interesting. Instead, the movie goes to great lengths to show that he is 100% gay. They do this by showing that he really can't perform in bed at all with Marion. That's a really lame cop-out, but if you think about it, cementing the fact that Tom is gay is integral to the story. If he actually had genuine attraction to Marion, then he would be less of a liar in the relationship, and therefore he would be less deserving of having his life ruined. All in all, who the hell asked for My Policeman? I'm tired of watching period pieces about gay characters being constantly beat up. We are all aware that it happened, and not every movie with LGBTQ themes has to show trauma scenes, because I, for one, am tired of it. I hope that I haven't been too hard on the movie or took anything the wrong way, but honestly, I found it pretty terrible. If you haven't seen it yet, I wouldn't recommend watching it. Anyways, I'm Robert Tolpe, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and maybe even check out my Patreon if you'd like to give a small token of support, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.